What's going on, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Stop the Count podcast. In this episode, I'll be talking about the great weekend we had in boxing and MMA, as well as Chivas' participation in the League's Cup. First, for the top rank card headlined by Senisaestrada versus Leonelayudica for Estrada's unified minimum weight titles. But getting into some prospects that I didn't mention in my last video, Charlie Sheehy, he fought a totally different fight than he usually does. He was the aggressor, and although he was caught a couple good times by his opponent, he still got a great knockout victory. Now, for Dante Benjamin Jr., in my opinion, he's such a smart fighter in the ring, and his power is there. But this fight, what impressed me the most was his body work, and being able to change levels and land great body shots was just great. He was, of course, going up against a tough opponent that didn't make this fight easy. Now, Dante got a draw in a very close fight. It was still a great performance, nothing to be disappointed about. Now, for Subarumorata, what a fight between him and Juan Centeno. It lasted 3 rounds, but these fighters gave it all they could. Centeno called it quit at the end of the third after taking so much damage, giving Murata his 5th finish in as many fights after a great performance. Now for Rohanpolanco, it was a good performance from Rohan again. As his opponent's level goes up, so does his. At first, I thought it was going to be a very tough fight, but at the end, we've seen how he's developed, getting a pretty bizarre knockout as his opponent was counted out due to him staring at his corner and not responding to the referee. Nonetheless, it could have only gone worse for his opponent, so I do believe it was a good stoppage as that was his 2nd time getting dropped. Now, for karlosbalderas versus Nahir Albright. It was a very decent performance from Balderas. To me, he was winning most of the rounds, although not dominating them. Balderas really had no answer for Albright. Every time he took a shot, there was 4 coming back to him. But Balderas was landing, in my opinion, the cleaner, harder shots. I had Balderas winning 78-74. The judges seen it different, and Albright pulled out the majority decision victory. Now, was this robbery? In my opinion, no. There was no robbery. The rounds were close, and the judges seen it go Albright's way. For the co-main event, Andrescortes versus Xavier Martinez. Cortez started the fight off, I would say, the better fighter. It might be due to Xavier's extended time off, but as the fight continued, Xavier, in my opinion, was landing the better shots. The good shots on the inside, controlling the ring and having Andres up against the ropes. Andres really had no answer. To start the 7th, there was a horrible cut that opened under the eye of Xavier, and his corner, Robert Garcia, didn't send him out after the cut. In my opinion, it was a good stoppage. The cut was horrible. It could have only gone worse. And honestly, besides your hands, your eyes are the most important weapon in boxing. I had Xavier winning on my card 68-65 at the time of the stoppage, but the place Garcia was put in is a place I would hate to be in. But I still believe Garcia made the right call. Now for the main event, Senisaestrada versus Leonelayudica. The fight was so much closer than I thought it would be. Senisa was really struggling with the reach advantage of Yudica. Yudica really looked one step ahead. Yudica was listening to her corner, and Estrada honestly wasn't. Although towards the end of the fight, Senisa was really able to slug it out. In the last couple of rounds, she did pull out the victory in my cards. I did have Senisa winning 96-94, and the judges seen it the same way as Senisa pulled out the unanimous decision win. Hopefully she fights Yocosta Valle next in America or Costa Rica. Who cares? This fight has to be made next for both of these fighters. Now for the Showtime card headlined by Errol Spence versus Terrance Crawford for the undisputed welterweight title. Starting with the first championship fight between Nonitodonaire versus Alexandrosantiago. Donaire really started off looking good, catching Santiago coming in with left hooks. As the fight went on, Alexandro seemed to be comfortable, and I feel he was able to steal the middle rounds from Donaire even after being hurt in the 3rd round. Santiago really sealed the fight with great boxing in the later rounds and winning him his first world championship, beating an all-time great fighter. A great performance from Alexandrosantiago. Now for Isaac Pitbull Cruz versus Giovannicabrera. From the beginning, Pitbull looked like the clear brawler and Cabrera was doing a great job being the quote-unquote boxer. This fight was really disappointing. I expected so much more from both fighters. I believe Pitbull went into this fight with the wrong game plan. The body is where he had to go and Pitbull was just headhunting. I expected Cabrera to come out the way he did, A lot of holding, a lot of being very defensive, but what surprised me the most was his chin. He was taking so much headshots. The fight ended in a surprising split decision Pitbull victory. Many thought it was a clear Pitbull win, but one thing is certain, Pitbull needs a lot of work. He uses zero jabs. He had no idea of how to get to Cabrera without lunging into him with hooks and overhand shots. He's not ready for any of the big guys, yet alone any of the high level prospects. I still do believe he won the fight, and very clearly on my card. And now for the main event, the fight we have all been waiting for. Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford for the undisputed welterweight championship. What a fight this was. From the first bell, we were on the edge of our seats. They both started off slow, feeling each other out, and Spence honestly looked like the better fighter. I have him winning the first round, but from there on out, Crawford took over, knocking Spence down in the second. Earl might have been a little off balance, but he still looked hurt getting up. From there, I could honestly say it just looked bad for Spence. He didn't have his legs under him, and he just looked off balance at all times. Spence's game plan again for me was bad. He came out way too reckless and fast against a proven counterpuncher, and Crawford was just dominating him with everything. But to me, the one thing that stood out to me the most from Crawford was his jab. It's always a key for him, but on Saturday night, it was another level. Now, at around the fifth round, I noticed Crawford had Spence's timing down, and it was only a matter of time before it was over. As the fight went on, it only got worse for Spence. His face was horrible, and Crawford even got 2 more knockdowns in the 7th round. From there, I said to myself, Derrick James himself has to stop this fight. The damage Spence was taking was horrible, and there was no quit in Errol Spence. But Derrick James failed to realize that, and he failed to realize what he had in his hands. And thank God for Harvey Dock having the balls to stop this fight in the 9th round after Crawford continued the beating, and thus ending an amazing performance from Terrence Crawford and ending a horrible night at the office from Errol Spence. There will always be that what if Errol never got into that horrible accident the night of October 10th. But what ifs don't matter, and we'll never know. Nonetheless, it was an amazing event, and thank both of these great fighters for making this fight happen. If the rematch does end up happening at 154, it might end differently, who knows, but we'll have to wait and see. I said last week it was going to be very hard for the winner of this fight to take the number 1 pound for pound spot from Naoya Inoue, but Terrence Crawford did. Much more than that, in my opinion. He's 1A in my pound for pound rankings, and Inoue is 1B. And now for the UFC 291 card, it was headlined by Dustinpoirier versus Justingaethje for the BMF belt. The news from the weigh-ins was Michael Pereira wouldn't be able to fight due to missing weight, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson not wanting to give Michael the advantage that missing weight gives them, and decided not to fight. I side with Wonderboy on this one. A 30% purse fine is far too little for the level of professionalism that's shown from Michael. Starting with the fights, talking about Gabrielbonfim versus Trevin Giles. What a performance. There's nothing more to say about Bonfim. An absolute monster. A danger to any welterweight out there. He really just toyed with Giles and locked in a guillotine that ended the fight. Now, talking about derricklewis, what a performance. An absolute beast. A finish in less than a minute and a great entertainer. There's nothing more we could have asked for from derricklewis. For the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Alexpereira. What an amazing 3-round fight this was. Both fighters did an amazing job. It was an extremely close, very hard-fought match. I was wrong on this one. From the beginning, Jan came out looking to grapple and take Alex down, but Alex did a good job defending the takedown until he couldn't. Jan really controlled the first round with the ground game, and now as the second round came, the fatigue really started to set in for Jan. Alex was having a good time on the feet despite being taken down. Alex got up and did a good time sealing the round with great strikes on the feet. For the third, the fatigue was really setting in now, and it was still a very close round. I personally had Alex Pereira winning this round and the fight due to what he was able to do on the feet prior to being taken down for the final 30 seconds of the round, but even then, Jan really didn't do anything on the ground. All the early grappling and wrestling really tired him out, and that's not to mention the fact that they were fighting at altitude. 2 of the 3 judges had the fight going to Alex Pereira, 29-28, and I had it the exact same way. The fight could have easily been Jan's, but Alex showed great development on the ground and his takedown defense that many didn't expect. It was still a great fight and a good performance from both fighters. And now for the main event, Dustinpoirier versus justingaethje for the BMF belt. After a very good first round from Poirier, the fight couldn't have ended in any other way. A great head kick in the round 2 ends the fight, and it's justingaethje who pulls off the great win. Justin levels the series at 1 apiece and sets himself up for a title shot against the winner of Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. A very unexpected ending to a fight that we have all been waiting for. This ended a great fight card. We only seen 2 fights go into decision, so many good finishes. Who should Alex fight next? Does he deserve a title shot after his performance versus Jan? Let me know in the comments below. Now, talking about the Chivas game, what more is there to say about the first half? Chivas came out with Tala Rangel at goalie and Alexis Vega on the bench with Padilla starting. The midfield was the midfield we all wanted, Guti, Nene, and Pocho, but Chivas were really out of their element. Cincinnati came out hot. Brandon Vasquez scored 2 goals in less than 10 minutes. From there, the game was a lot more even. I don't want to sound like a crybaby, but let's be honest. The refereeing this tournament has been clearly one-sided for one league, and that's something that shouldn't be happening. Mexico left the Libertadores for a reason, and now in this tournament, it's all the same. Honestly, I'd prefer to play in the Libertadores with much more competition than in CONCACAF. And more problems came from the referee. An absolute brutal bonehead decision by Diva Sepulveda led to him getting an undeserved red card, in my opinion, leaving Chivas with 10 men and an entire half to play while being down 2-0. For the second half, Alexis Vega and Pollo Briseño came in off the bat, and nothing really changed. Chivas were struggling to make anything happen offensively. The game did come to an abrupt end as the rain in Cincinnati was falling hard. The game had to be postponed after a 3-hour-long wait, and it was rescheduled for Friday afternoon. As the game restarted, Chivas were able to score off the very first play from the restart, Pollo Briseño making it 2-1 and leaving 30 minutes to play. And the bleeding for Chivas did not stop, as at the 73rd minute, Chivas gave up another goal to Brandon Vasquez, making that his 3rd goal of the game. Say what you want about the goal, but I believe it was offsides. And that's the worst part of the game. The VAR was only used 1 time throughout the whole game, and it was only to give a red card when it was really a questionable red card. The game ended with a score of 3-1. This was in no way a game Chivas should have won. They played horrible, but it will still leave a very sour taste in the mouth of many fans due to the horrible officiating. This is a situation that should not be left alone by the League's Cup. It has to be talked about. There's no way there should be 3 to 4 missed calls that benefit one team. And that's not even talking about the Cruz Azul game versus Inter Miami or Cholos' game. Now, talking a little bit more about the Chivas game, in my opinion, there was really only one bright spot for the whole game, and that was Piojo Alvarado. He looked great, creating chances and just being a playmaker, making a difference in a team that wasn't doing shit. The biggest disappointment for me was not the goalkeeping, although it was trash, but the midfield. I was hoping for so much more from Nene, Guti, and Pocho. They looked lost, and it could be because of the communication and them not really knowing each other's style of play yet, as this will be their first full game playing together, but there really is no excuses for them losing this game. For Chivas' next game versus Sporting Kansas City, this is a crucial game as Chivas have to win to advance. Although they could also get through on penalties, the winner will probably face Toluca in the next round. Sporting will be without their striker and former Chivas player Alan Pulido due to a red card he got during Sporting's game versus Cincinnati. This is going to be a great game as both teams need a win to advance. So just knowing that, I know it will be a very close, well-fought game between the two. Alan Pulido will be a big missing piece, but it's not a game breaker for Sporting. If Chivas midfield doesn't show up, Gadi Kinda is going to have a day. For Chivas, I would really like to see Oscar Wally in net, and honestly, a little bit more action from Jesus Brigido, even if it means a little bit less playing time for Yael Padilla. Brigido's playmaking will be huge. He's a big difference maker because of how these MLS teams play. And due to Tiba's red card, I'm honestly certain Pollo will start, but Raul Martinez is someone I wish we would really see more from as well. We really only seen him against Bilbao, and he didn't do a bad job in that game. There's no reasons for players like the ones Chivas have in the midfield to lose a game like that. And really, fuck all that attacking down the wing shit. The wingers have to cut in and at least attempt a shot on goal. Piojo is the only one that has been doing that, and Cincinnati knew that. I still really don't see them losing this game. I believe Chivas will win in regular time with a score of 2-1. If they go into penalties, it will be extremely hard to believe in Chivas, because in recent years, Chivas have not had the best times with penalties if you take away the 2018 Conca Champions final. But Chivas will be in the next round. Believe that. The Bellator card happened, and all honesty, I didn't watch the fights. ajmckee had to pull out of his fight versus patrickypitbull due to an injury, leaving him out of the lightweight Grand Prix and making him the lead substitute if anyone left the tournament or gets hurt. That'll be it for me. Thank you guys for staying until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter at StopTheCount10. See you later on this week as I talk about the upcoming fights. See you then.